So we're looking at learning outcome 2 in the Unit 1, Understanding Roles, Responsibilities and Relationships in Education and Training. So learning outcome 2 is understand ways to maintain a safe and supportive learning environment. I can't talk today. So 2.1 is explain ways to maintain a safe and supportive learning environment. And 2.2 is explain why it's important to promote appropriate behaviour and respect for others. So let's make my way to the PowerPoint. So just to start off with, we're going to look at health and safety because that's quite a big point within this section. So we know that when we're in schools in any type of settings, it's our requirements as staff members to carry out health and safety risk assessments. So you might do a fire assessment, you might go out into the playground and do a risk assessment there, or you might be wanting to look at a different activity you're going to do. Say, for example, introducing iPads for ICT time, you've got to look at what sort of risks and hazards there could be. If they stand up and walk around with them, could they trip over, break the iPads, hurt themselves? So we're always looking at some way to minimize any hazards or risks that might occur.
Yeah.
And then we have got to follow the Health and Safety at Work Act anyway, but then we've got every local council has a health and safety policy. So this policy is put into place so that all aspects of safety are quite prominent in each school, that making sure that everything is compliant within the health and safety legislation. And again, it works with Ofsted as well. So they'll come in, you know all about Ofsted, they'll come and do the reviews, but they'll not just look at the teaching standards, they look at the health and safety standards as well to make sure that you're upholding and being compliant. And then we've got Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, I'm not sure if you may have heard of Maslow, especially when you were doing your TA courses. Now, Abraham Maslow is a theorist, and he believes that every human has a hierarchy of needs, so that certain needs need to be fulfilled for you to work and enjoy life in an optimal way. So he believes that we've got basic needs, psychological needs, and self-fulfillment needs. Now, the basic needs are just things that you can actually associate with what you're at work anyway. You know, food, water, warmth, rest. We've got staff rooms, we've got canteens, dining halls for the children. You get water bottles, you've got sinks where you can access water. There's a good temperature going on within the school, so it's neither too hot, neither too cold. And then you've got the opportunity for rest for staff members is to go into the, at break times, into a staff area. Or for children, it's playtime, isn't it, or their lunch breaks.
Yeah.
Security and safety are also measured as well with the way that we've got DBS checks, we've got FOBs and restricted access, and, you have locked gates, and then you've also got your office area where they will monitor who comes in and out.
Yeah.
And then you've got your psychological needs, is where you look at your esteem and your belongingness. So belongingness, especially within children and young people, even with the adults, you'll see that they'll make relationships with each other, make friendships, make and break them. They'll have little tight-knit groups. Esteem is when you'll go to a student and say, "Oh, well done, that's amazing." That, you know, just giving them some praise and they love it. It really pushes someone and they want to do better. And then finally, you've got your self-fulfillment needs. So it's just where you're achieving your own potential and you're, doing your own activities. You're actually getting to where you want to do. You're fulfilling all your wishes and dreams.
Yeah.
So the whole point of showing you that was that certain needs and requirements, every person wants to be fulfilled, and we do that without even realizing it. A lot of times within any type of educational establishment because of all the resources and all the breaks and things that we've got in place. So we're going on to 2.1, explain ways to maintain a safe and supportive environment. Now, according to Anne Gravels, now you'll come across her quite a lot within this course. So what she says is, it is important to foster a learning environment in which students feel safe, relaxed, secure, confident, and valued. So within this, you've got to make sure that you're looking at every single aspect of the health and safety within your work. And you're looking at the what you can do, what you can't do, and what your boundaries are. And then within that, you've got to make sure that you're not planning for activities where someone's health and safety might be compromised. For example, when I was younger, it was perfectly acceptable for us to be climbing up a tree and having a bit of a play around, sitting on one of the big branches. And that was fine. But that was, say, 30 years ago. Now, if there was a student climbing up a tree, you'd go straight away and ask them to come down, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, because if they fell, they're going to get hurt. There's no soft padding on the floor. There's a lot of issues that could happen.
Yes.
So when we look at health and safety, we've got to see how we actually do it within our settings. Now, a lot of schools and establishments will have certain types of food and drink, so halal, vegan, kosher, vegetarian, the list is endless to be on there. The venue as well. So when we're talking about venues, I'm talking about things like if you're going on a trip or if you're, especially with children that are in reception in year one, teachers like to take them to, say, Tesco's or to ASDA to go and buy ingredients and then come back and make jam sandwiches and things, just to show them the whole shopping experience. So you've got to, and then within that, you've got to make sure that it's safe. So if you're walking down to Tesco, which might be, say, it's 5 minutes away from my home, for example, the school is quite close as well. So you've got to see within that 5 to 10 minute journey, what sort of, what are we encountering? You've got strangers you're coming across, how many children are you taking, how are you managing them in the shop? So there's a lot of things you've got to worry about. Temperature, you've got to make sure that everything is at the right temperature. If it's too hot, you can't work. If it's too cold, you can't work. It's uncomfortable. So we always get through that by opening windows and doors. And now, especially with COVID, I know there was a rule out where we had to keep ventilation. So if you've got a room with an external door, which in my previous setting that we did used to have, every classroom had an external door into a playground or a quad, then we'd make sure that they were open at all times. And again, with this, you've got to look at lighting as well. If you've got flickering light, you know how annoying it is to sit under that and work. And again, it might trigger someone's epileptic seizures. So you've got to be really on the point with that one. And then you're going to be looking at uniforms as well. Now, traditionally, this is what came to mind when I was looking at uniforms. When I went to school, all the boys and girls would wear a traditional uniform. Do you know, one that went around the neck with the fabric as well? But, you know, kids and adults, even they get into fights, they can get into a lot of jokiness and so on, and pull on each other's ties and so on. So it can cause a lot of issues where you might, be joking around someone but not realize that you're actually strangling them in the process. So you might have seen that you've either got those elastic banded ties now with the thin elastic band around them, or you've got clip-on ties that are a lot safer.
Really?
Yeah, in the high school now. It's because when you're working in the primary sector, we don't normally have ties. We just got polo shirts and jumpers, don't we?
Yeah, but my children are wearing traditional ties even now.
Oh, are they? Yeah, because every school that I've seen now, they'll have those clip-on ties. They've got a little metal clip. It just clips onto the button part of the front, or there's a very thin elastic band that if you pull it too hard, it will just snap open. We've got like little Velcro that snaps them together.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, they're meant to be in that way, but I think probably got a very good behaved school. And then another way to maintain safety is to make sure that any visitors that are coming through, that they're checking in through the school office, they've got identification, the visitor stickers, lanyard, and a good thing that you should do if you see a stranger in a way or a person you don't recognize within your setting and they've not got a lanyard on or they've not got a sticker on, you are well within your rights to stop them and say, excuse me, who are you? And it's nothing that you won't get into trouble for it. It's because they should, by all rights, be displaying who they are. They should have a sticker on which is visible. If they've got it on and they've put a coat on and put it on the shirt underneath, they need to remove it and put it on top of the coat or have, make sure that it can be seen. So you would never get into trouble for asking someone because you're there just upholding safety, aren't you? And basically, you already know this for staff, how to make sure it's safe. Just make sure that everybody has to be DBS enhanced checked. Now, when you're doing one-to-one sessions, especially with the youngest learners that are under 16, you do a lot of one-to-one sessions. Now, when I was working with my young learners, I know that they love sitting next to you, they love snuggling up to you, and they like to, be close to you. But ideally, you should really have a table in between you, so you're both on one end of the table, facing each other. If you're in a private room, in a separate room with the door, leave the door open, prop it open, or if you're in an intervention area, just make sure you're telling someone, right, we're going to the library or we're going to be in that hallway over there. So just put systems in place to protect yourself, just in case there is an issue that might arise.
Okay.
Now, how to create a supportive environment. So you've got to manage a structured learning environment. So make sure that you've got times where work is happening, but also when there is downtime as well. Now, for the learners that are in your age group, will have quite a bit of free time. They'll have structured learning. Then they will have maybe a couple of times a week where they've got choosing time or arts and crafts or some sort of experiments or, doing work outside when the weather's nice. For all the learners, make sure that they get breaks and lunch and they're actually getting a little bit of away time as well. Have class rules. Make sure that they're negotiated within the class. This normally happens at the beginning of the year where you say, right, either with the older ones you say, right, this is our rules, you want to follow it, or you set it up for the little ones. Do one-to-one sessions where it's necessary, so just catch-up sessions, interventions. Encourage individual working and pair working and get children to work together, get your learners to actually, collaborate and say, right, this is what we're doing, let's work together over here. So now on to you on this. Is there how do you actually maintain a safe and supportive learning environment at your setting? What sort of steps do you take?
Within the classroom, I can say we consider all health and safety protocols that we have door stopper, so it's open all the time, so none of the children can get accidentally hands in between the door. Or chairs are tucked in. While it comes to children, then of course their shoelaces need to be considered. It's tied up. And for lunchtime or milk and fruit time, we are ensuring that they are eating and enjoying, and they are having talk with each other. So they are, they are happy basically. So they are even socializing. Yes. So no one is upset. Of course, if anyone upset, then I take them on a side to talk to them. That's what's bothering them and what can be done to make them happy or feel comfortable.
Yeah. Oh no, that's good. Really good point on that. Well done. So I've got a couple of tips for when you're answering this. Now, when you go to answer 2.1, just refer back to your health and safety policy. And I know you can't add in, because you're saying it's a private school, you're not allowed to add things in. So if you can get hold of a health and safety policy and just add it, for any school, any primary based school, then just look at it and then copy and paste some excerpts of how to maintain a safe and supportive learning environment, because there will be bits about DBS checked and visitors and access and things. So you can copy and paste that within and just say within my school environment we follow, copy that in, and then also include an example of a time you maintained a safe and supportive learning environment. So what did you do? How did you follow the health and safety requirements? How did you make sure that your students and your co-workers were safe? And how did you make sure that you supported them with their learning journeys?
Okay.
So are you okay with that section? Do you want to ask any questions or go over any points?
No, I'm fine. So basically, we have to talk about health and safety and everything we talked about, isn't it?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And at the end, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Okay, and again, some of the things from policy, from my school policy, and explain them with example, yeah, how I'm doing, how I'm following those things.
So what I would do is I'd start off with the paragraph just saying, talking about how you maintain a safe and supportive, and so how you maintain a safe environment, and then you refer it. So I maintain a safe environment in accordance to the health and safety policy within my workplace. Then you can copy and paste an excerpt out of it, a passage out of it, pop that in, and then you can give a couple of examples and say, this is how we do it. So within my workplace, all staff members need to have a fob. They need to have their identification on them all round, sign in, sign out, those type of things. And then you talk about how you support your students. So we support our students by doing intervention, paying attention to them, making sure that we listen, addressing them by their name or their preferred title, those type of things. And then, so that will be like 2 paragraphs. And then for a 3rd paragraph, you just say one time and then you just put an example in of how you actually physically did it.
Okay.
So 2.2 is explain why it's important to promote appropriate behaviour and respect for others. Now, with this, equality and diversity comes quite a lot into it. So it is very important that you have a decent set of standards set in place to make sure that everybody's in a good environment, in a suitable environment from the get-go, so that they'll know exactly what they can do and what they can't do, which is why classroom rules for the younger ones come into play quite a lot. So when you've established these ground rules, it will help prevent a lot of problems in the future. And then especially within the first couple of weeks, when you get a new cohort, say from reception coming into year 1 and year 1 to year 2, it takes a bit of a learning curve because they test you the first few weeks. They try to see what they can get away with. But you've got to be not 100% strict because it's a quite a tender time for them to be going somewhere new with new staff. But you've got to stick to your ground and say, right, you can't do this or you can't do that.
Yeah.
So the question on here is, why do we think we have to promote appropriate behaviour? So with this, it's just to make sure that you're covering inequality and discrimination that is being challenged, and that you're trying to get a fairness and a respect between every student. It'll help you to create a safe environment, and your students will be more relaxed, they'll be motivated, they'll want to participate, they'll be happy about talking, raising their hands and saying, giving you an answer, even if it's wrong. And within that, it's important about how you actually respond to somebody. So when there's a child that raises their hand, or a learner raises their hand and says, gives you an answer that might not be right, you don't say, oh, that's wrong, okay, who's got the right answer? You say, oh, that's a good try, well done, thank you for joining in. Can anybody else have a go? So it's certain little phrases will let them know that you're happy that you joined in. It might not be the right answer, but it's not harsh. So there are a lot of things that a teacher and a supporting staff can actually do as well.
Yeah.
So how do we actually do this? So again, like I said earlier, establish your standards. Make sure you let your students know what is acceptable, what is not. Work on class rules together for the little ones. Follow the policies and procedures. Now, I've got a couple on here, and there'll be a lot more, to be honest. So you've got your behaviour management policies, bullying, rewards and sanctions, and equality and diversity. Now, I used to find behaviour management so hard to do. I'd be in a lot of different classes, and I get to you get to know your students, and you know who's being a little bit cheeky and who's pushing themselves. But when I'd say, for example, we had one rule at lunchtime: if the students weren't listening, we'd within our year 5 class, we'd get them to stand against the wall for 5 minutes. And I found that so hard to do because I thought they've been sitting in the classroom all morning, cooped up. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, you're being good, you can go, and you're being good, and you can go. So I'd start pulling them all off early. And it's not the best thing to do in a way, because if you were to go and do that and put them for the full 5 minutes, they'd say, oh, she lets me go early, why don't she? It's not a good standard to maintain. But that's something that it's one of those things. I just start feeling sorry for the little ones. So we've got zero tolerance for bullying. So make sure that there's sanctions in place, so that the students actually know if you bully, if you do any of these things, what is going to happen. Now, bullying, unfortunately, is not just within school. It can happen outside of school if the kids know each other or the students. Online bullying, harassment, Facebook, Twitter, all of these. There's a lot of children that shouldn't have Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat at certain ages, and they do. You'll probably have students within primary saying they've got Facebook when they really shouldn't. So it does cause grey areas where sometimes bullying can take place.
Yeah.
And then again, finally on this, you just got to make sure that you're valuing your individuals and you're actually modeling your desired behavior. So I remember there was a situation where I was working as a TA, and we had the class TA, I was there as support, and we had the teacher from the next door. Now our classrooms had a concertina door in the middle which could fold out and be closed, or just completely open, so 2 classrooms merged into one. Now, the main TA of that class and the class teacher on the other class, they had issues with each other. They would politely snip at each other in front of the students. Now, children aren't dumb. They will pick up on behaviors and they will copy you and they will do all of these things. So that was inappropriate for them to be doing at that time. They did get settled out. They did get sorted once they had a good old chat a few months later. But misunderstandings sometimes can cause issues. But my whole point is, regardless of how you feel about someone, even if you sort of be curt with someone or just snap at them or, sort of walk away when they walk near you, your students, regardless of their age, they will actually notice. So if you don't want them to do that behavior, you shouldn't do it yourself either.
Yeah.
And then you've got a student responsibility section on this as well. So you've got all your teaching responsibility, what the teachers and the associate staff should be doing to ensure that there's good behaviour being promoted. But students also have a responsibility. Now, students can make student and group contracts, especially if they're older, like in high school or in sixth form. They can say that we're going to work together, we'll take turns, we'll listen and speak to each other, we'll share ideas, and we'll do all of this whether or not you're in my friend group or not. So you know what kids are like. They're conflicting groups and say, I hate her or I hate him, and so on. So it's good to put this in place for your older students. Peer working is a good one as well. So, make sure that you get students to work together, because then they can teach each other and help each other and give each other good ideas, and it will teach them to work as a team for future use as well.
Yeah.
Inclusion, so make sure that they're collaborating and working with each other. And another way for a staff member to make sure that everybody is getting included is to, every few weeks or every term, change the seating arrangement around. So it really works well for any age group, where children and young people and adults, they'll form friendships with each other and they'll get comfortable and they'll just want to talk to each other and work with each other. But if you swap around their seating, they're forced to interact with different people, and that is a good tool.
Yeah.
So in your setting now, how do you promote appropriate behaviour and respect for others?
Again, by showing them that how we are treating each other, like the teacher and myself, like when we are in the room, how we are treating each other with respect. We are listening to each other. We are following the instruction it has been given to any of us. And of course, while teaching, when she's teaching, then I'm managing the behavior with the children who are sitting on the carpet. So by guiding them what to do or what not to do. So if they are interrupting the lesson, then I have to ask them to be quiet because they are interrupting everyone. And of course, by giving them reason that why I'm asking not to do that. What's the reason behind I'm stopping them?
You've actually just reminded me of something. About a year or so ago, I was at the back of the classroom and I was supporting another member of staff. And my job was there for behaviour management because we had a lot of children that were being a little bit silly that day. And then about an hour later, I went walking and I saw a member of the senior leadership team, and she was walking past the classroom, I think, and she said, "Afsha, I couldn't understand what was going on." She said, "You're trying to get the children to be quiet, but you're being loud as well." She's like, "You're shouting across the classroom like, Abdullah, be quiet, or Jessica, don't talk." You know, she said, just go up to them and tell them quietly. I'm like, oh. So that really put it into place that I was doing the same thing that those kids were doing. I was very quiet after that. So that was a 2.2. I've got a couple of tips for 2.2 as well now. Now, on this section, you should include a paragraph about different policies. So talk about your behaviour management, your equality and diversity, maybe your safeguarding, because especially if there's any bullying issues, your bullying policy as well. So talk about the policies that are appropriate for your setting, and then just include them, put a few sentences about each one, how you follow those, and then how they're used to promote good behaviour or appropriate behaviour and respect. And then include a detailed section on how this is actually implemented. So first do an overview of the different policies here, then do a detailed section on how this is actually implemented in your workplace. So all the things you talked to me about, add a couple more as well. And then put in a personal example of how you promoted an appropriate response on behaviour from someone. So if you notice some children fighting or not getting along on a daily basis or not sharing toys at choosing time, what did you do?
Okay.
So have you got any questions you want to ask for 2.2?
No, like you said about policies, different policies. So it's like related with behavior, inclusion, inequality, discrimination, these kind of, yeah?
Yes. I've got a few of them listed over here. And there they are. So yeah, equality and diversity, where have they gone? Yeah, there you go. Behavior management, bullying policy, rewards and sanctions. This can sometimes be called different things. It might just be under your behavior management. Equality, diversity, safeguarding, so a few of those.
Okay.
So again, you don't have to go into a lot of detail about them. Just mention them, how they're used, what you do. That just show that you know that they are there. So we've looked at different ways to maintain a safe and supportive learning environment and why it's important to promote appropriate behaviour and respect for others. Would you like to go over anything in these sections?
No, I'm fine.
Let me turn the recording off.